There is such a small difference between a tragedy and a good story, especially if one is hiking in the Amazon jungle. So let me set the stage. In the first 5 months of 2015, my wife Rita and I lived in Colombia, where I was teaching at the University of Cartagena. In February of that year, Raleigh, a friend since freshman year in college, and his wife Tricia came down to visit us, and the four of us flew to the Amazon. We went to Leticia, a city of about 40,000, where Colombia and Brazil and Peru all come together. Once you leave the city, there's 9 miles of paved road, and then it's another 350 miles before you come to another paved road. Jungle on all sides. So we arrive in Leticia Airport, and there to meet us is Jenny from a small tour company, and Jairo, who's to be our guide. Jairo's from the indigenous Ticuna tribe, short, early 30s, wiry, incredibly knowledgeable. In the first day, all of us head up the Amazon River in a small speedboat. We stop at small islands and ports along the way. On one of those islands, it's populated by squirrel monkeys who swarm over you when you open up a banana. On another, members of the tribe enact one of their legends of the pink river dolphin who would come out of the river once a year at the annual festival dance and would take one of the maidens back with him to the river at the end of the night. The performance, it's not memorable, except for one adolescent girl rolling at her eyes at her mother for making her wear such a ridiculous costume. There are some things that transcend culture and distance. And the next day we're going to take a 2-hour hike in the jungle and then have lunch at an ecotourism place. So the van drops us off and we walk into the jungle. And it's wonderful. The path, it's wide enough, it's springy from the dead vegetation, blue butterflies cross our path. And we come to a clearing, and there's a maloca, a large pole structure with a high thatched roof. And inside, Jenny introduces us to Hitoma Sardanya, shaman of the Witoto tribe. And people come, youth and adults, to hear his stories. And we found out later that he had been featured in a 2013 Smithsonian magazine, Tribes of the Amazons, and a delegation from Japan was coming the next week. So Raleigh, Tricia, Rita, and I, we sit in a circle around Hitoma, and he tells us stories about the creator who washed the earth clean because he was dissatisfied with the first group of humans, and the messages that he sent about the 4 directions, north, east, south, and west, and what each of those mean, and about doing good, living well, choosing good over evil, and the rituals that reinforce that, which include the use of coca, and how men have turned the coca into the poison of cocaine, and the difference between the natural world, the world of trees and plants and coca, and the world of civilization and concrete and cocaine. Now, I'm the only Spanish speaker in the group, and so I'm translating section by section as he's talking, and I'm trying to catch the cadence and the rhythm as well as the words, and it's one of the best hours of my life. When we leave the maloca in the clearing, we're all quiet, thinking about what we've experienced. But soon our attention turns to the path, because it's the rainy season, and it's a lower area, and the path is muddy and it's mucky, and people have put down poles and boards and felled trees to try to make it passable. But the footing's not firm, and so every step is an adventure, trying to balance, trying not to fall off or to step into that mire. And it's probably no more than 300 yards, but by the time we get off of that onto drier land, we're exhausted. And we get to a clearing and we're drinking water. It's noon by this time and the hot sun is pouring down, and we're covered pretty much from head to toe with clothes to try to keep malaria-carrying mosquitoes away. And I look at my companions and they're hot, and I turned to Hydro and I said, "How much farther?" And he says, 2 hours. Is there another path? Yes, 1 hour. Let's take it. So we set off. And we walk for a while in the jungle. And then Jairo stops and says, we need to backtrack. He had missed the path. And we do that, and I ask, how much farther? And he says, 1 hour. And we walk for a while, and then Jairo stops and asks us to wait, and he's going to go ahead. And he runs ahead, and comes back a few minutes later, and he tells us that we were going to just walk through a very small stream, but with the rains, that's now hip deep. So we back up, not that far, to a place that's a little clearing. There's some trees that are falling down, and we sit there, and Jairo goes to check an alternate path. I look at my wife, and Rita is both red and pale at the same time. And I ask, what's wrong? I didn't want to pee in the jungle, so I didn't eat much breakfast, and I haven't drunk much water all day, and I think I'm getting hyperthermia. Okay. Jairo comes back, and he says, that path is blocked, and he's going for help. Help? And he takes off, and we're sitting there, and we see a tree crash 50 yards away, and we hear another one falling in the distance. And Trish and Raleigh are sitting a little ways off, and Trisha's looking at me like, you got us into this? I avert my gaze. Oh, and by the way, we've run out of water. Rita doesn't seem concerned at all, although her breathing seems to be getting shallower. She tells me later that she was delusional at this point and thought if she fainted, well, they just have to medevac her out, as if a helicopter could get through that canopy. And then Jairo appears, and with Jairo is Isabel, a middle-aged woman from the nearby Witoto tribe community, with her dog and her machete. And Isabel knows the way out. So we all get up, and I ask, how much farther? And she says, 1 hour. And we start walking. And then the sky gets darker, and it seems to be a little cooler, and the rains come down. Jairo says, you can put your ponchos on, and we say no. We take off our hats, and we let that downpour soak over us and cool us down. And Rita's steps are getting steadier and stronger, and we joke for the first time in hours. Jairo, it may be because he's a little embarrassed, defensive, about not being able to get us out on his own. He says, even Isabel gets lost sometimes in the jungle. So I walk up to where she is in the front, hacking away the underbrush with her machete, and I ask her, what do you do when you get lost? And she says, I sit down and I wait for a plane to go overhead, and then I know where I am. There are 8 flights a day from Bogota to Leticia, the only flights into the airport. And there you can tell the north to the south in terms of the flight pattern. And I'm thinking, I don't know what's more amazing. The lived stories that Hitoma told us this morning, or this indigenous woman who uses flight paths of airplanes when she gets lost in the jungle. Jenny's on her cell phone at this point. And we're walking. The rain lets up, and a few minutes later, we emerge to a narrow, rutted dirt road. And there waiting for us, there are 2 young guys on motorcycles, Jenny on her cell phone. And Rita and Tricia get on the back of the motorcycles, and they head up the road. And the rest of us trudge the half-mile up to the paved road where a van is waiting for us with cold bottles of water to take us back to Leticia, to civilization, to concrete. Now, this story, it could have ended badly if Isabel had not arrived, if the rain had not poured down. But both of them did come. And when we walked out of the jungle, this story came with us. To travel the distance and show up 15 months later on this stage to be shared with all of you.